And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the 2026 GSL Season 1, Round of 12, Group A. I'm, of course, your ZvP, with me I'm joined by these amazing players and by the lovely people in the chat as well. Welcome, one and all, to the winners match. We just wrapped up with the first two series of the broadcast. Honestly, pretty fast. A lot of aggression, a lot of all-ins. We saw that from both Rogue and from Zoun as well. Zoun going intentionally for his 8-gate 2.5 base all-in Game 1, and Game 2 he was forced into a 3-base all-in after being denied the 4th base time and time again, building up his death pool and then forced to push out across the map. But now we have our winners match. The winner of the series will advance on into the round of 8. We'll advance on in GSL. We have Rogue, we have Zoun. Let's go. I'm curious as to what our codes are going to be, if they've been changed at all, as we have our head-to-head. Okay, there's no stats coming to winners match, but we have our vetoes. Let's go. Let's take a closer look. Bam. Let's take a close look here. As you can see, we have Old Republic followed by White Rabbit and 10,000 feet. Interesting. Once again, we have pretty standard vetoes out of Zoun. Zoun, he does veto the more aggressive maps. He vetoes Ruby Rock and Tourmaline. Those are two of the more aggressive maps in the map pool. He's gotten rid of them, and he gets rid of Mothership, which has some RNG variants as well. Meanwhile, Rogue, he vetoes Winter Madness, Title, and Celestial. If you remember, I was surprised that Solar let Celestial through. Rogue gets rid of it. Rogue gets rid of the macro maps. Let's go. In the right hand corner, we do have the blue Zerg player. We have Rogue from South Korea. This time they give us more to every. And in the bottom right corner, we have the South Korean Protoss player. The red Protoss for onside. It is Zoun. God, they just don't want to introduce the players. What the hell? Let's go. Once again, if you want to help support the tournament, if you want to help support GSL, you can do so via the Patreon, Patreon/GSL, to get a link to get the URL here to the Patreon for GSL to help support the tournament, help boost the prize pool, and allow for a Season 3 to come to fruition in 2026. So you can support the GSL via Patreon. It is available. Likewise, you get your own benefits as well. There are plenty of tiers, plenty of ways to support. As we are jumping into our first game of this series, here we go. We do have our initial hatch first by Rogue. We're assuming hatch gas pool. We'll keep an eye on the gas count to see if he does anything sinister. Likewise, Zoun going for a standard opener as well. Now, when it comes to Old Republic, this map does make sense for it to go through the veto process. Oh, we have some head-to-head actually here. Okay, Rogue 8-3 over Zoun. Very close. Oh, that's offline, I should say. Very close when it comes to online performances. True. Very close. When it comes to the Old Republic, it is a bit of a larger map, that is true, but it has an exposed 3rd and 4th base. The 3rd and 4th bases are more open, more exposed. Longer rush distance does help with that, but this is why it makes sense for a Zerg player, for example, to allow this map through the vetoes more so than the others. That's why I was surprised that Solar vetoed Old Republic in the last series, but it's available here for Rogue. Is available. And again, we're expecting a more standard opener out of Rogue in towards a standard mid-game, into aggression then in the mid-game, right? Into aggression, into 3-base play is what we expect on the Old Republic. Meanwhile, we'll see, as Zoun knows that, of course. At this point, we've kind of, gone through the maps and metas have been created and we have certain expectations as well. So we'll see if we'll see if Zoun tries to, once again, tries to subvert those expectations and goes to something aggressive himself instead. And now Stargate open out of Zoun, building up into his own standard opener for the time being. Likewise, eyes are on Rogue when it comes to his own 3rd base timing. Just building up his queens, joining on up, and now expanding. Looks like Rogue, he delays his 3rd base in favor of an extra set of queens. Just playing it safe. And Rogue does expand. So from here, we are just going to be droning, saturating. It's going to be up to Rogue to keep up with the Adept and with the Oracle aggression. Oh, okay, this I like. We mentioned earlier that it's going to be up to Zoun to mix things up a little bit here and subvert those expectations, and he's going Void Ray first. Now, the goal of the Void Ray opener is to hunt down Overlords. Oh, Adept does not commit, but to hunt down Overlords, to deny vision, deny scouting, and as a result, hide something in the main base. By denying all that vision, we can, of course, throw down some hidden tech, like a second Stargate, a Fleet Beacon, a faster Twilight Council, or even just standard play. But the point, of course, being that Rogue wouldn't know what's going on. Whether it's something hidden, whether it's something aggressive, or whether it's something standard, Rogue would be in the dark. So the Void Ray does move out. is hunting down those overlords. And we'll find one. It does find the initial overlord. We have the Oracle follow-up. Zoun going for a bit of a later third. Rogue does move into delay, but at a turn position. Oh, did they get surrounded? They do not. Whew. Quick reaction, quick moves out of Zoun. Does pull away, doesn't get surrounded. And so far, so good. Yeah, Zoun, he maintains his third base. As you can see, when it comes to the tech, when it comes to the build itself, this is a standard third base timing into... Oh, this is an early Twilight Council. Okay, early Council... I'm leaning towards either Glaives or Blink. We have been seeing a lot of early Blink out of Zoun. Both games against Solar, we did see early Blink. So, could be early Blink again, or Glaive Adepts. Those are the two things that come to mind. What is bolstering that idea is the lack of Forge. Lack of Forge, lack of upgrades, lack of +1 means more aggression. So, a much more aggressive build here by Zoun. With the extra earlier 2 gateways, I'm still leaning towards Glaives here. But again, he's been very fun to Blink. It's still either or. We'll see. The Oracle does poke in, pokes in, going for the stasis, and no reaction. Rogue, he's distracted. No, Rogue is distracted, and the stasis goes off, catching half the mineral line. Rogue was focusing on the Void Ray. The Void Ray did distract. Extra gateways being thrown out. It is going to be Blink, but that's 4 gates on the way. 2 gates already done. 6-gate Blink Stalker. We are expecting 2 more gateways. Just like game 1 against Solar, it looks like an 8-gate all-in. 8-gate Blink Stalker all-in, I should say. Assuming we do throw down 2 gateways. Now, to be fair, against Solar, in game 2, Zoun did go for later gases and did go for a very late Forge and late Temple Archives. There it is. Okay, late Forge, late Temple Archives. I assumed that this was going to be an 8-gate all-in that we saw game 1 against Solar, but no, this is going to be 6-gate Blink into delayed tech. This is also in game 2 versus Solar on Mothership. So it's interesting that we're seeing this, the intentionality behind this build. I thought that against Solar, it was like a haphazard, kind of like messy, like weird variation. But again, it looks like this is very intentional. When it comes to what this build allows for, early Blink and the heavy gateway count means that Zoun can be active and aggressive and apply pressure, but it means that he isn't all in, right? He's taking his gases, he's going for delayed gases, delayed upgrades. It does mean that his upgrades are much later. That is true, but allows him to be active a lot earlier without being all in. So it feels like an interesting build, a little bit middle of the road, assuming that he makes use of his Blink timing. That is the assumption. As Blink is on the way. When it comes to this build specifically, something that I should mention, and again, we cast more StarCraft than anyone else out there, I haven't seen anyone else do this. Like, I have not seen this build from Hero, from Classic, from Max Packs, for example. Like, this build feels very unique, what we're seeing specifically here in Game 1 versus Rogue and what we saw in Game 2 versus Solar. But that might also be the fact that we don't really get to cast much PvZ in, like, period. When it comes to most StarCraft events, like, PvT is the predominant matchup, and PvZ matchups are a little bit more rare. So it's possible that this has actually gone through some of the other pro players, at least on the ladder, for example, but hasn't been showcased too much when it comes to these bigger events. Or it could just be a Zoun thing, right? Because it could be. It could be a Zoun thing. We'll see. As we do see Rogue, he is committing into a heavy Roach army. Hydras are massing as well. Rogue, he's committing. Rogue, he does drone up to almost 4 base saturation. He's got 72 workers. But what I find interesting is that Rogue, he's not droning. Rogue, he's intentionally not droning up. He's getting a handful of upgrades. He's getting +1 range. He's getting Roach speed and Hydra speed. But it looks like Rogue is going for a massive timing here early on, staying on a low worker count and committing. Basically, Rogue is going all in. That's why you can see Rogue spike up in supply. It's a very inefficient army. It's very Roach heavy, but it's designed to kill, right? Like, Rogue, he has no intention to last for the game to last any longer. Meanwhile, Zoun is taking up into the Fleet Beacon, taking up into Sky Toss. Can he survive? It's going to be a tough hold. It's going to be a tough hold because here comes Rogue. He's maxed. Rogue is maxed out. He's all in. Again, purely Roach Hydra. Storms will help. It does end the first. But again, there's just a sea of Roaches coming his way. It might just be too much. Yeah, the side defense is not yet done. The Wiles don't quite connect. Storms, we do land a couple of storms here. There's what, 2-3 storms left. But nice spread here by Rogue. Oh, does go back in though. Yeah, it goes back into the storms. Storms are gaining value over time, but that's it. That's the final storm. And with that, the Roaches are breaking through. Stalkers are going to be going down. I say that, but Rogue, he's running out of Roaches. Yeah, he's slowly running out of Roaches here. It's still quite close. Another storm. Again, that was the final storm here. There's not enough. Yeah, there's not enough on the ground. Cannons and shield barriers were just too little too late, and Rogue, he breaks the low ground. And we spoke about it earlier, but the fourth base specifically on the Old Republic is exposed, right? It's more difficult to defend the fourth base than than any other maps, really. Compared to Winter Madness, compared to Celestial Enclave. The force hasn't broken, and with that, Rogue, he has done it. He's snowballing out of control. He breaks on through Zoun. He was trying to take up into Skytoss, but he won't be able to get there. He will not get there. It's not going to happen. GG gets called, and Rogue, he takes game number 1. Ooh, GG. GG, well played. Rogue, he does meet those expectations. As you mentioned, this kind of aggression on a 3 and 4 base setup is very common. Very, very common on the Old Republic. Specifically, this map, that low ground expansion is just so difficult to defend. It's so difficult. So we see a lot of Ling Hydra all-ins, Ling Bane Hydra all-ins, Roach all-ins, as you saw, Roach Hydra all-ins as well. Like, we see a lot of heavy commitment where we're not really ready for a longer game. We're not taking up in towards lurkers or another expansion, droning up to 80 workers, getting greater upgrades. Like, nah, not at all. We're just cutting workers earlier, committing across the map, focusing on maxing out with even like a cheaper army just to overwhelm, just through sheer numbers, break the defending Protoss player. And we saw that unfold then and there. GG. GG, well played. Once again, this build from Zoun, I'm still not convinced by. Like, we saw it in game 2 against Solar. It quote-unquote worked, but I wouldn't say it was because of the build. Like, it was a very unique situation. Here against Rogue, we built up to 6 gateways early on. We got early blink. We delayed the upgrades. What did that achieve? Right? That's what I'm still trying to wrap my head around when it comes to this build. Like, what was the purpose of getting up to 6 gateways that early on and building up those stalkers where we're not being active? We're not being active. We're not being aggressive. Zoun, he didn't really have a presence on the map like I was expecting. But here we go. Top right, we have Zoun. Bottom left, we have Rogue. So we're getting into game number 2. So on this build that we've been seeing specifically from Zoun and ZvP or in PvZ, I'm still not entirely sold on. I'm still not like it feels like the best case scenario here is to defend against a 2 base all-in, just because a blink finishes early and you have extra gateways. So if the Zerg player were to go for, say, like a German taxi, which is a 2 base all-in, or just to keep it on 2 bases and to be hyper aggressive very early on in the mid game, then I do think that Zoun would have the advantage against that. But the problem is that the meta doesn't really allow for that anymore. The meta is all about 3 base all-ins, like 3 base all-ins, 3.5 base all-ins, which we just saw last game as well. These hit a lot later, and because of that, like, the early blink that we're seeing from Zoun that's meant to be more defensive isn't really coming into play. Like, there's not really as much value. There's more value, I would say, in taking up faster and getting your upgrades faster than it is getting your extra gateways and getting your blink as quickly as we are. So I'm not entirely sold on that build from Zoun. I think that there's value in it on smaller maps. I think it makes more sense on Ruby Rock because there's a higher chance that you do have those 2 base all-ins on Ruby Rock and on Tourmaline. Like, going for early blink, like, in a safer manner makes sense there. But on larger maps, like, I don't see as much value in it. At least so far. You know, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll be convinced otherwise as we're loading into White Rabbit. White Rabbit is a larger map of the map pool, longer rush distance by ground. What I will say is that because of the size of the map and the distance between bases, this does allow for some interesting mid to late game. It does mean that rotating between bases defensively can actually be quite difficult. Can be quite difficult to rotate to keep up with your opponent's aggression. We have been seeing many players outpositioned in longer and later games, and we're going to be favoring Rogue in that sense, in that longer and later game when it comes to pulling apart his opponents and being hyper aggressive. We're expecting something similar this time out of Rogue, to build up to like 70 plus workers, under 80, to commit with a mid-tier army, with a lair tech army, and to be aggressive with that. There's a chance that, of course, maybe Rogue tries to be greedy and tech up into hive faster and lurkers faster. We have seen that from Rogue before. Muted play is also viable here as well. Rogue has options. Rogue has options. Meanwhile, Zoun, he is going for his own Stargate. So Stargate open out of Zoun into a 3rd base. Everything's looking normal so far. We'll see if once again Zoun goes for a delayed forge. Like, we've been seeing later forges and later upgrades out of Zoun every game so far, against Solar and against Rogue. So we shall see. Eyes are on Zoun to see if that trend continues. For now, though, Oracle is on the way. So Stargate into Oracle, likewise Adept does poke in. Adept pokes in, pulls away. Nothing major here. Again, you don't want to be losing these adepts early on as Zoun. If you do lose them, that will expose your third expansion and make it vulnerable to Ling aggression. So Zoun turns around. Does turn around. It does end up zoning back one of those overlords. May hunt it down, as it is getting quite low. Probe moves into expand, and the Oracle is at home to defend. So the Oracle should be okay. And Lings are deflected. The Overlord should fall. One more volley. Oh, no shot, he gets away. Yeah, the Stalker will eventually hunt it down. And we have an early chamber this time out of Rogue. Okay, I know we've been focusing a lot on what Zoun's builds have been, and we haven't really been focusing too much on the tech of choice from Rogue. But this game, early Eva chamber, this should be for +1 melee. Should be +1 melee into a Ling heavy style. This time, not roaches. That's usually what early Eva chamber means. Yep, and as you can see on the production tab, there's that +1 melee. Again, if you're seeing an early Eva chamber in ZvP, it screams +1 melee, it screams Ling heavy style. This can be for, ooh, that's an early nest. That's interesting. Early nest here from Rogue. So he's going Ling Bane, most likely Ling Bane Hydra, but we'll keep an eye on Rogue. The earlier nest might be for a greater Ling Bane heavy composition into earlier tech. Meanwhile, this time, finally, Glaive Adepts. Early Twilight Council, no Forge. I don't know if you noticed, but time and time again, I keep bringing up the idea of Glaive Adepts because of this build, and we just keep seeing Blink, but finally Glaive Adepts are on the way. So hyper aggression here by Zoun. Remember, this is not an all-in. This is Glaive Adepts as we're expanding and getting a third base, but this is very aggressive. This is very committed, and if this fails to get damage done, then Zoun will fall behind because he is sacrificing his Forge, his Blink, his tech in favor of Glaives. So he falls behind in every other aspect. He needs to get damage done with this. Meanwhile, the early Baneliness means that Rogue has a way to defend. Roaches are ideal against Glaive Adepts, but Banelings can do the job as well. Banelings, they can be good enough. As we should be banking up those adepts in the main bases. Yet to be revealed. Lings, they try to engage, but again, it's so far a better trade. Here come the mass adepts, though. They're shading across, I believe, so far unscouted. Now they're being spotted by the Overlord and by the Zergling. Yeah, now Rogue knows. Yeah, now Rogue is fully aware. We have 20 Lings in production. More Banelings are being focused on by the Oracles. Okay, not bad. Gets 1, 2, 3 Banelings. Decent pickups. We're coming in with this round. Banelings are going to be looking to crash in. And he does force the shade to be cancelled. Two adepts, they do shade into the mineral line. Plenty of Lings to deal with this. And Zoun is getting 0 damage. Remember, we spoke about this, but Zoun, he's sacrificing so much for this aggression for these adepts. He needs more value here. He needs more damage, and so far he's being denied. He's being denied. +1 melee is done. Zoun turns around, and Rogue, he defends. And now Rogue has enough to counterattack. He has enough. Now, did Rogue cut workers too soon? He did cut workers at 58. He's now starting to drone up a little bit. He's droning up. There's no further tech to commit to an all-in, so from here we just macro. We're macroing up from here. Rogue will apply some pressure. I believe Storm is done. I believe. Getting us up with the gateways. Doesn't quite bring them down. Meanwhile, we have the answer when it comes to the tech of choice. Going for the Hydrogen. Interesting. Going for Pneumatized Carapace. That typically means drop lords. Means we're getting ready for some drop play. That'll be a good way to make use of all these Zerglings. To drop into mineral lines and to find some damage. That's a lot of Templar amassing. Speaking of, as we did mention, they're the drop lords in production. Again, you don't get Overlord speed at this level of play unless you plan on going for drop play. Or in other niche circumstances. Meanwhile, Zoun, he is now being active with his adepts. Pushing up with the entire army, actually. Okay, early push. Early push, early timing. Zoun does not expand. Yeah, very unorthodox timing here from Zoun. And does he catch Rogue with his pants down? Rogue is still building up his Ling Bane. Rogue, he dropped up to 82. Zoun, he commits. He's pushing in. At the same time, we do have the drop. Yeah, here comes the main drop into the mineral line. Rogue, he does react in time. Good reactions. Rogue pulls away, and he commits in. Banelings, they will connect. Archons, they need to tank. Yeah, so far we get some decent control. Oh, the Banelings! Banelings, they crash in. They shut down the Adepts. Archons are on their own, and there's some brutal connections here. Yeah, Zoun completely cleaned up. Rogue, he dominates the fight. Again, had plenty to work with. He did not overdrone. He wasn't too greedy. He still had plenty of Ling Bane left over from earlier, and that was it. Like, that's all the Zoun had. That's all he had to work with, Bappy. Once again, trying to harass across the map. But remember, Zoun, he did forego a fourth. Like, there's no fourth expansion, there's no macro, there's no follow-up here. Zoun was all in. It was all in with that push. It was a very unorthodox timing, and again, it was designed to catch Rogue being greedy, but Rogue wasn't greedy. Yeah, it wasn't greedy in the end. Catching out the Zealots, pushing into the natural, knocking down the Cybercore. No battery to defend. And Rogue has done it. Rogue, he has done it. He breaks, he busts into the main, baits out the stasis traps one after the other. Across the map, we do get a couple of warp-ins here. Zani's causing some chaos across the map, but only some. Oh, God. Plenty of Ling Bane. And he breaks through. He breaks on through. There's one more stasis in the main base. Once again, gets baited. Storm is almost done. I assume Storm was done earlier, to be honest, if you recall. I swear I saw it in the production tab. But maybe it was cancelled. And GG. Yeah, GG gets called. There's just nothing left here. And Rogue, he will claim the series 2-0. Rogue, he will advance on into the round of 8. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Rogue will be the first player to make it through, coming out in first place in Group A of GSL. Congratulations. Congratulations here to Rogue. Again, Zoun, he did have some quirky builds. I'm still not sold on the build that we saw in Game 1. Going up to 6 gateways into Blink on 3 bases, into Delayed Forge and Delayed Temple Archives. I'm still not sold on that build, to be honest. I'm not entirely convinced. But here in Game 2, we did see him go into something more committed, Glaive Adepts. And we did try to point that out, did fall behind as the Glaive Adepts did 0 economic damage. So it was brutal, committed into Glaives. Glaives didn't do enough. He went for the follow-up Archon charge all in on 3 bases, no 4th expansion. And again, that was designed to catch a Zerg player being greedy. If Rogue was droning up too hard, rushing up into Hive Tech and Infestation Bit, into Lurkers, then he would have died then and there. But he was staying on a Lair Tech composition. He was staying on Lingbane Hydra. He had enough army. He shut it down. GG. GG, well played. And I believe we're having a winner's interview. Do we have audio? I don't think we do.
일단 이병현 선수 승리 축하드리고요. 일단
Okay.
첫 번째 질문은 정재영 선수와의 이제 1세트 대결에서 이제 전진 부하장을 펼치셨는데
Take it away, Maddox. Take it away.
이상한 위치에 일단 좀 지으셨어요. 일단 되게 좀 숨겨서 좀 지으시려고 했던 것 같은데 그때 좀 상황을 좀 한번 얘기를 해주시죠.
일단 정지영 선수가 SCB 서치를 주로 하다 보니까 그 SCB 서치 타이밍에 안 걸리게끔 지었고, 만약에 이제 앞마당을 지을 때 이제 딱 그때 걸리면 제가 상황이 되게 괜찮은데 그 앞마당에 서플 때 걸렸나? 그래가지고 좀 애매했던 것 같아요.
Yeah, Percival sent a SCV out, so I wanted to not to get seen first, but then I got caught when actually he went down to build a supply depot, so I think that went a little awkward.
It's a reference to Game 1. So, it sounds like the English casters are asking questions. They're conducting the interview, and Maddox is translating. But because we don't have the English casters audio, we can't hear the question being asked. So we don't know we can hear the answer and the translated answer, but we don't know the question. Let's go. Let's go.
이번에 좀 선보이셨는데 특히나 이제 바퀴 개멸충을 좀 위주로 이렇게 공격적인 푸시를 좀 선보이신 것 같아요. 이번 GSL에서는 좀 이런 공격적인 스타일을 좀 기대해 볼 수 있을까요?
아무래도 온라인 대랑은 다르게 이제 시간도 많고 빌드를 준비할 시간이 되게 많다 보니까, 그래서 이제 상대가 이제 되게 약한 스타일들을 제가 그 스타일을 위주로 연습을 되게 많이 하다 보니까 이렇게 된 것 같아요.
Yeah, compared to other online tournaments, GSL has plenty of time to prepare builds and kind of a lot of strategies. So I think that's why I'm kind of showing off these kind of builds. Yeah, I think that's the difference.
Mhm. Okay, okay. We do have permission to show the actual event, the main feed.
이제 8강 진출하게 되셨는데 이제
Sorry, I'll
팬분들께
try to
뭐
switch to
각오라든지 좀 이번 8강에서 좀 어떤 모습을 보여주실지 좀 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
8강 1등으로 진출해가지고 조가 되게 어려운 조가 돼가지고 좀 남은 시간 동안 좀 8강에서 잘할 자신은 없는데 또 재밌는 경기 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
Well, ironically, going to first place means I got into difficult group in round of 8. But so that being said, I'm really lack of confidence right now. But well, I'll try my best, prepare a lot to show a good games.
Thank you so much for the interview. Best of luck in your future matches.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, well that's Rogue, and
Look,
actually
I
Darcy
say
just said that he has a lack of confidence. Could you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
He played. He looked so.
I believe that. I believe that. But I'll do a better job next time. So next time we do have permission to show the main feed and hear the main feed audio. I'll just switch to them, I guess, next time for the next interview. I'll be on that. I'll be on that. Otherwise, with that, shout out to Rogue. Again, he was explaining a little bit when it came to some of his thought process coming into some certain games. I would have appreciated to have heard a little bit more regarding Rogue when it comes to like the matchups even as well, coming into the previous games. But regardless, GG well played. Oh my god. Regardless, GG well played. With that, we are wrapping up our winners match. Up next is going to be the elimination match. It's going to be a best of 3 between Solar and Percival. Again, that's going to be a rematch. Bearing in mind that Percival did bring down Solar earlier in the qualifier to make it into GSL. So we'll see if Percival can do it again. We'll see if Solar can get his revenge. For now, we're going to be coming to a break, and we'll see you guys soon after the break. See you soon.